Love is Blind UK is back, and we are here to recap the episodes. Today's episodes 1 through 3. We are going to be dissecting. I am Ty. Let's do the recaps for this season 3 of Love is Blind UK. And I will say, just first off, whoever did the casting this year, tens across the board. So far, so good. No one's given too crazy. No one is ugly in my opinion. I think this might be the best looking Love is Blind UK cast that we have had, um, maybe ever. I truly think like ever. Yeah, I think that it seems like people want to be married. Normally, I feel like what we have the issue with Love is Blind is that the girls apply, the men are found. Whereas it seems like a lot of the men here are looking for relationships, actually want to be married and husbands and all this kind of stuff. One of the key things I also realized from watching 1 through 3 is that, ladies, don't tell a man too much of your past, girl. Mm-mm. I know I'm meant to be open, I'm meant to be vulnerable, but there's something to be said when you're like, nobody wanted me. That just really doesn't sit right in my spirit. I don't care if it's Love Island, I don't care if it's Love is Blind. We need to learn how to repackage or rebrand that message because I don't think it works well. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is at least through 1 and 3 we're gonna just basically go down the list of the couples, the people that they meet, and we talk about their situations in isolation. And then maybe if you guys prefer, let me know in the comments. If you want us to do it basically scene by scene, we can do it scene by scene too. And then I could also have some people come in and, help us out with this um recap reviews. So I've got my notes. I do have my notes. And we're first gonna start off with um Jack. So Jack the lad, 30 years old chef. 30 years old, he's from Cornwall, and he is literally proper English boy, chatty patty, good chat, good bants. Like, I was first when I we're gonna also just talk about perceptions when we first met them, and then we'll talk into like what goes on in this situation, like in the series. But I will say, from when I first met him, I was like, this man will laugh you out your panties. I can see why he gets the girls that he gets. He's got that like low cut, like David Beckham in the early 2000s when he just got with Victoria. He's got those striking eyes, a bit of a tan, tatted. He's a chef, he can cook, and like, way to women's hearts sometimes, I believe, is the food. So he had all of these things going for him, and he is like what I would call like just a proper like a common boy. Like, I'm common, like, do you know what I mean? Normal, common guy. And I always find it funny when the common guy meets the posh girl. And it's just this like law of like posh girls, rich girls, good girls wanting the rough common boy. It's giving Jasmine and Aladdin. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like that Lady and the Tramp, like that kind of vibe. It's just that. So it's funny that his two connections, the first person he meets is Faye. So Faye is 28. She's an executive assistant. He didn't know what that was. He's 30 years old. Didn't know what executive assistant was. He had to ask her to explain. And she it gives grown woman. I feel like she gave more than 28, but she is grown woman, gives posh, well put together, also owns a horse riding. Like, that's the kind of person that Faye is. And, she is a bit more put together. It's funny how when she was asked like how her friends described her, she said that they would say I'm really silly and really funny and all these things. Don't really get that from you, but that's fine. Everything comes in different packages, and obviously you might be the hoot of your social circle, but just from other social circles, it doesn't really give that. But yeah, Faye, lovely. I think she is gorgeous. I think Faye is gorgeous, and it's something when you can just see how these men really do rip the soul and the light out of women's lives, where you just see that she just doesn't know how buff she is. Like, she doesn't know how gorgeous she is when she talks about, her past relationships and like how she was treated by these men. Like, Faye has gone through it, honey. Um, And it just makes me really, really sad because she is stunning. She's so stunning. It's crazy. Anyway, Jack also has a connection at the beginning with Kira. Every time I see Kira's name, because it's Ciara, I'm thinking Sierra. My goodies, my goodies, my goodies. But it's Kira. Um, but okay, so Kira is 27 and she's a Pilates instructor. And honestly, she's a bit of me. She's a bit of me. Do I think, don't want to compare, but I think Faye is a more conventionally prettier person. I think she's more pretty, more beautiful than Faye. But Faye's energy, Faye's confidence, Faye's I don't give a shit, I'ma get what I want attitude just gives me fucking life. And that just shows you truly it's not what you look like, it's how you carry yourself. My girl said straight, I have a 300 minimum spend on a date. I've also had someone spend 15,000 on a date. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. She's a bubbly girl. She's like, I get my nails painted red. They're always red. My nails are always done. Like, I spend on bags. I spend on shoes. I spend on all of these things. Like, that's just what it is. Like, that's just who I am. And like, I don't care if like I'm a Pilates instructor and my money is for me to look cute, but I really she knows what she's looking for. She needs the man with the big bucks that's going to give her the life that she wants to live, because I know for a fact Pilates is not giving her the 15k life that she's talking about. I don't even know if Pilates is giving spend $300 on a date lifestyle. I mean, I don't know where she's doing Pilates. It might be a private club for all I know, but it didn't give that that was she would be able to upkeep this lifestyle that she wants on her own. I'm sure it's fine where she's at right now, but she needs a man that's going to spend that. Spend that. So that's why I was kind of surprised, no shade, based on the rhetoric that she was speaking, that she was even interested in Jack. Like, Jack gives, when you're young and you just like want to be with the fun guy that just, can, but I don't know if it gives husband material. Do you know what I mean? I don't like as well when he was dating them at first. He told them both that he loves them when he was leaving, and obviously he's just doing get lad jokey banter. But me not like it. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it at all. Doing too much, doing too much. What I also love about um Kira, she was like, I wouldn't go backpacking. Like, I need a suitcase and an iron, and I agree. Like, there's just certain things that now we're of certain age. Like, no one is backpacking through Europe. No one is backpacking through Asia. Like, we need suitcases, we need irons, we need accommodations. So, like, Jack gives backpack through Europe, backpack through East Asia. He doesn't give sweet life. What was I can code it? He doesn't give sweet life. And that's why when Big Dog comes in, AJ, I was like, girl, AJ is so yummy. AJ is so yummy. This is the tall, dark, and handsome that I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean? Like him, Joseph, like this is the tall, dark, and handsome that I'm talking about. He is obviously, he said he was a basketball player, then he was a banker. He's very mature. He also said that he is training to be a Pilates instructor or do Pilates because there's not enough men in that field. Makes me think that he is not a misogynistic pig. You would think that sometimes when you're hearing banker, Canary Wolf, basketball player, sports athlete, you're thinking pig. But when he speaks with such like calmness and like comfort and integrity, and then just to like bring in this side quest of like learning how to be Pilates because there's not enough men in the field, and he just loves the conditioning. Like, it was just so whimsy, and I liked it, and I like him, and I just think he's great. What was really confusing to me though is that it wasn't straight away a write off. Jack wasn't straight away a write off for Kira. Like, there was definitely a lot of back and forth, and she really liked his banter, and they were having really good conversations. And I do appreciate that she went back into the women's quarters and told them like, oh, this is like what we've been talking about, and her and Faye were able to have the exchange regarding with like him saying that he loves them and stuff like that. And I think for Faye, that was, I mean, for Kira, that was a switch on. Whereas Faye was like, oh, is this a red flag? And asking everyone else's opinion. Girl, do you know what I mean? Like that to me should have been a very clear sign, Faye, that he is someone to watch. Do you know what I mean? But Faye's not really getting it. And I think the reason why Faye's not really getting it is because when she talks about her ex-boyfriends and like how they didn't treat her very nicely, and then she then goes and starts telling him like that basically no man has ever treated her nicely. Yeah, I think she's someone who overlooks a few things. That's the vibe that I'm getting from Faye so far. But here's something I do want to know. What do you guys think about when the girls go back into the quarters, or even the guys go back into the quarters and have these conversations about the guys that they're dating or the girls that they're dating? Do you think that they should do that? I think you should. I understand that you don't want to, make anyone feel uncomfortable. And I think you want everyone to lead with their own experiences and not feel like by talking to another person or hearing someone else's experience might taint yours or change the way in which you view your person. But that's the point. Like, I feel like when you're dating, you don't have the benefits, I guess, of really understanding the Carfax or what their history is or who they're talking to previously, right? But here you have this good opportunity to have an insight into who else they may potentially like, see where there's a comparison, and then question on whether or not like they are really showing up authentic to you. It was funny how when AJ was talking to his friend about Sierra, and was just like, I really vibe with Sierra, like I just think that she's so great, blah blah blah. But the fact that she likes Jack makes me question like, what is this like? Because how can you like Jack and like me? And not for real. Do you see what I'm saying? Or in the situation with Sierra and Faye, sorry, they're having these conversations, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, like he told me that he loves me, and then she's like, well yeah, he told me that he loves me too, and then later on down the line, like, oh, I told him to write a note, and then he's like, oh, yeah, and then he's gonna write a note. Like, it was all of these things that I just think that you have this unique experience, and it shouldn't just be, there's so many elements of this experience that I feel like you should be able to take hold of and use that to make the best decisions with the person that you're picking. And I think one of the parts of the experience that I feel like sometimes Love is Blind couples miss out on is the opportunity to learn about your person from another person that they're dating. As long as you're not jealous and take things from a grain of salt, it is, you can learn maybe twice as much based on what they're saying, like the conversations they're having with someone else, but then also like what they like about that other person. I don't know, let me know if you think that. But that was just one of the thoughts that I was having. Anyway, yeah, AJ's yummy. With their whole situation and that foursome of it all, I never really understood why for Kira Jack was even an option. Like, yes, he's funny, he laughs you out your panties, da 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 da. But based on all of the things that Kira talks about and her lifestyle, it didn't really make sense to me. Jack is a chef. Now, I don't know too many chefs, but unless you are Gordon Ramsay, they don't be making that money like that. I mean, like, unless you're like the head chef in a Michelin star restaurant in the middle of Soho and Mayfair, like, I can't see how you're making that much money to be able to do 300 on a date, blah 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 blah. And I was like, I needed Kira to get the context clues very quickly that he might not be able to give the lifestyle that you want, even though he's like, I love a girl who's feminine, I love a girl who gets her nails done, I love a girl that does da 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 da. He sounds like the guy that loves that, but you pay for it. I don't think he's paying for it. I don't even think he could afford to pay for it. But like, yeah, it doesn't give that. So like, yeah, the energy and the vibe was there, and I feel like it was funny how it's almost like for Kira, he was kind of weirdly the number one spot until she started to feel that he was disingenuous, which again, he didn't know that word either. When, you know, she started to realize that he was having similar conversations with Faye, and it turned her up the wrong way. And then she showed up in that conversation in a different way to see how he would react. And he failed miserably because he forgot she was vegan. Now, being vegan is such a huge thing for both parties. For me, I could never date someone who's vegan. I couldn't be a chef and date someone who's vegan. I know there's vegan chefs, but if I was a chef, I wouldn't date someone who's vegan. I wouldn't even date someone vegan. Now, I like to eat. I like to eat meat, ribs in particular. Do you know what I mean? So I couldn't understand how that was even going to work. But hey, you know, he liked the fact that her nails were red and she was a bougie bitch. Do you know what I mean? So he didn't remember that she was vegan, obviously turned her off because one of the things she was saying is that she just feels like he chats for chatting's sake. And she's not wrong. She's not wrong. He chats for chatting's sake. So it didn't really feel right, didn't really sit right with my girl when he didn't remember that she was vegan. Then after that, he was like, "Oh yeah, like, do you like cheese?" That's how she realized, no, because I'm vegan. Then he was like, "Oh yeah, but you know, like, I love prosciutto. Yeah, da 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 da, some fresh mozzarella." And he's like, "Yeah." She was like, "Yeah, I don't eat mozzarella." And then he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna write on my notes, doesn't like cheese. She don't like cheese because she's vegan, my man. She don't like cheese because she's vegan. Fair enough, there's vegan cheese, but you know, realistically, she doesn't eat cheese because she's vegan. And the fact that you don't remember that, and that is actually such a big thing in someone's life. Someone being vegan is such a big thing in their life, like how they eat, how they source food, like, do you know what I mean? Like the type of food you would have to bring into your house, even how you feed your kids, marriage is such a big thing that I think they didn't even seem to really talk too much about it, or maybe they did, we just didn't see it. But that is a huge conversation, especially in my opinion, if you're a chef, you're such a foodie. Now you're gonna date, marry, and have kids with someone who's a vegan? I don't see how that works. Maybe I'm being dramatic, and that's just because I eat the pig from the rooter to the tutor honey. So for me, it didn't make sense to that you are gonna be dating someone who's vegan. Anyway, so she's just like getting the ick from him, and I'm getting the ick too because like you don't understand that vegans don't eat cheese, and you don't understand like you just and you forgot that I was vegan. I don't like that. You're telling everyone that I love you, I love you, love you. Weird, weird. So then he's saying he's gonna write a note, doesn't write a note, then comes in and tells Faye that he's gonna write this note. Faye, before that, Faye reminds me so much of the girlies who, like I said before, so gorgeous, doesn't know she's gorgeous. When she sat down there and started crying to this man about, you know, the types of relationships that she's had and the man, her boyfriend that cheated on her, and that how, you know, she's basically a shell of herself and it took a lot to get through that, and no man has treated her nicely. Um, I actually feel like that didn't work in her favor. I feel like and I think it's because of the type of man that he is. I'm sorry, but as a woman, I just don't think you should be saying that nobody wanted you. Mm-mm. If that's your truth, I need you to remix the truth. I need you to remix the truth. And there are other women in the show that basically have said similar things. Let's say Yasmin, we'll get into her later, but Yasmin, but like they package it in a different way. Like, you know, I needed her to be like, yeah, this guy cheated on me, he didn't do right, blah, blah, blah. And then I tried to date as well, and it took me a while to get through it and get over it. That's fine. But for me, I think, you know, I just know how I want to be treated, and I want this level of treatment and blah blah. And they did the best that they could, but it wasn't good enough for me. I need you to I need you to give a little Do you know what I mean? Like, do you get what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the correct wording I'm trying to get here, but I'm gonna need you to reframe that. I need you to not sound like woe is me, but just like, wow, nobody wanted me, because everybody wants someone who somebody wants. Nobody wants anyone who nobody wants. And if I can't even see you and know that you are buff, because she is so buff. Like it's just giving you're not that cute. And then especially when the other person that he's dating is Sierra Kira, who is just so like, I'm a pop princess, I'm a bubbly princess, treat me like a princess, nails done, hair done, everything did. And then you on the other side is just being like, nobody wanted to treat me good. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. It was very awkward to watch. It just didn't sit well in my spirit. It didn't. It didn't sit well in my spirit. Anyway, we come to the bit that Kira ends it with Jack because she realizes that he ain't not now and never going to be the man that she needs to be, and I'm so glad that she did it. He also was very weird in a way because like she was the one that purposely was a bit standoffish, and he's like, oh, that really turns me off, I don't like it, you know, Faye makes me feel safe, blah 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 blah. But it's because Faye has not, you know, questioned, you know, you. And I find it really funny when you finally have, if you have something negative to say about someone, how they then bounce back with the situation. I don't think he does well with bouncing back with negative conversation, like at all. But I really do appreciate the fact that Kira was like, absolutely not. And it makes sense, babe, because you have a banker. You have a banker, you have a basketball player, which means he's tall. Like, I was like, context clues, Kira. Tall basketball player, banker, Canary Wharf, more likely to have money than chef. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on now. But she made the right choice in the end and ended it things with him. The way she went inside that women's quarter again and told everyone that didn't he pronounced her name wrong, or he said the wrong name. Oh, treacherous. When I just thought that Jack was just a Jack the lad, like good for a chat, blah, blah, blah. But now he's even giving me the ick. How dare you say her name wrong? He called her Fran. Who the fuck is Fran? There's no Fran. Well, maybe Francesca. There's no Fran in there. So the fact that he called her Fran and then even at the end made the joke and was like, oh, what's her name again? But this is the woman that you said that that is your number one and that you like and all of this stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I was to marry him, because obviously we don't really know, but if I was to marry him and I'm watching Love is Blind back a year later, I'm gonna be fucking pissed because there's not been one part of episode 1, 2, or 3 in my mind other than him doing that one little letter, and like, you know, now he's giving her these flowers and his ring and stuff like that. But I feel like it was definitely redemption based on the fact that, like, you know, based on the fact that Kira ended it with him and he now is going all in to the one girl. It just it's not looking right. It's just not looking good. I would be so mad. Other than those things, I'm just like, it doesn't look very good at all. It doesn't look very good at all. The flowers was a beautiful touch, and I will say that he did technically plan the flowers of the ring situation before, you know, Faye could come to him with the fact that Kira has been the one telling her all of the stuff around, you know, he said my name wrong and all this kind of things before. She doesn't really stand on business. A little flower and a little ring, girl, sent you. And that's the thing. When you've not had Nout, this gives everything to you. You know, right now he's operating at a 6, but you know, you've never had more than a 3. So for you, it's everything. I will say though, give him credit. No other man has done flowers so far in the pod, so you know, we can give him credit. So what it looks like now is where we are. Jack is now with Faye and Kira is with AJ. So let's just get into Kira and AJ a little bit more. So Kira and AJ, what I really like about them is that they're having now more depth in conversation, because it was very much like money, 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 money. But I love that he kind of was like, you know, I need to know a bit more about you and I need to ask you these hard hitting questions. What it seems like is he's left banking, he's now in an entrepreneurial space, and he's saying that the money which he was making in banking he might not make for a year or two because he's now building out something different. I will say though, I don't like that. But I hear it. You kind of have to before you get married and have kids. If this is the time to be entrepreneurial, now is the time to do it. So he's doing it, and he's willing to, give her the lifestyle that she wants. But she needs to be aware that right now he might not be able to give her all of the things based on the fact of where he is now, but planning to be in the future where she wants to be. I also love when he finally opened up around his best friend and his best friend passing. I thought that was beautiful. Um, it was just really, really nice. I feel like on paper he seems like a really calm and chill guy, but he seems really mature, really respectful, and he definitely is very guarded. This is a thing with men of color, like men of color, when they are just raised in a certain way to be, way more controlled in their emotion. To be fair, I think that's a man thing in general, to be honest, but definitely in particular men of color. It's like you're you are raised to be very strong, to be very guarded, to be very stoic. And that doesn't help when it comes to then being very different and having to switch that off to be very vulnerable and soft and open to the woman that you are with in order to build a relationship. So I really enjoyed that. And I actually was very surprised that Kira was so open to it. I don't know why, but I love seeing the nuance of her. She's that girl, and but sometimes she did lead a lot with money, so I can understand why he was guarded with not just the whole thing with his business and money, but then also where um he is emotionally and dealing with something as traumatic as losing someone really close to him. And I think she handled that situation and that conversation with so much grace and class and so much love for him. And even with the money situation, she was like, this is why I work and I do these things and I want to be able to upkeep myself. My bags are expensive, my this is expensive. However, I do expect you to pay for dinner. And there's certain things in terms of a compromise. Yes, you can, maybe not make as much money as what you was making before because you're trying to build out this business and this plan for the future, but there needs to still be some standards here. Okay, we're still gonna need to have nice dinners and you're still gonna have to pay for it, because what I'm not gonna do is sacrifice to the point that now I have to completely change who I am and I'm gonna be now going out to eat at McDonald's. I'm not doing that. And I rate her for that. She's like, yeah, nails gonna be done, clothes gonna be done, my makeup's expensive, and I'm gonna be doing all these things. I expect dinner to be paid. You might not be paying all of it, but you will be paying for our activities. Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to take me for Formula One on the first date or Formula One driving? Yes, we can do that. You're paying for it. I've got the Wimbledon tickets. I'm a resident. Okay, I'll get the tickets. I will have access to them, early access. Absolutely love them to bits. Sorry, I was concerned about the fact that obviously he is a man of color, and I don't know if she has ever dated someone of color and if she would find him attractive. I find him attractive. I think he's very yummy, tall, dark, handsome, really great shoulders, great build. But I don't know if she was going to find him attractive. But obviously, when he then proposed to her, I loved when he proposed to her. He said, there was just something that he said. He was like, if there's one man that will make sure that you are protected and taken care of, that man is me. Oh, sorry. AJ, baby. Yes. Yes. The yummy AJ. Love that. He got down on one knee, proposed to her. Beautiful proposal. When they met, I think he was more attracted to her than she was to him, in my opinion. I don't know. I think that is the only thing I'm a bit concerned on with them two being engaged. That's my only concern with them two being engaged, is whether or not she will find him attractive. Other than that, I think it can work. Love them as a couple. So yeah, let's go into the next couple. I quickly want to just talk about, because there's not really much to say, about Sophie 27, operational sales, and Tyler from Hertfordshire. He's 31. I forgot what he did, but absolutely love them. She was in a 7-year relationship and she was with this person since she was 19. 7 years. She's now 27, or turned 27, and this is her dating again. She's never had a hoe phase. Girl, I don't know about that. But she seems to know what she wants. She's got a great relationship with her family. She's got older brothers. Um, she spoke around the relationship that she has with her older brothers and the fact that one of them, you know, was amputated, lost his leg, and how that brought them together. And when she spoke about that, that allowed Tyler to open up about the trauma that he faced when dealing with the loss of his mom when she died when he was, I think, 13. I think I cried. I cried watching that. Absolutely beautiful conversation. I love when you're seeing these men be vulnerable. When he was talking about the fact that the loss of his mom brought him and his dad and his sister together so much that he really just developed such a strong relationship with them. They're really, really close. And now seeing his nephew, like his sister having his nephew, he's really active in his nephew's life. He said that he's an embarrassment when he's at the football games and like he's Uncle Tay, like, and he's just like really involved and it just makes him want to be a dad. That is a man that wants to be a father. That is a man that wants to be a husband. That is a man who wants to have a family. I adore them. I also love for the fact that Sophie's like, I can't cook. I don't cook. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you on we'll switch our first date to like a cooking lesson." And she was like, "I don't want to learn. I don't want to learn." He was like, "So what? I'm doing all the cooking." And she's like, "Yeah, you can do all the cooking. I'll do all the cleaning. I'll wash your dirty drawers, but I ain't about to be cooking." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, fine." Love them together. Love them together. I loved when they met. It looked like they both were super attracted to each other. I have no qualms about this couple. I don't see any issues arising, but you never really know. I do think that there's this thing about Love is Blind, that the first couple that leaves the pods tend to normally be the ones that stay together. Maybe it's just me, you know, being isolated in my thinking, but I think those are normally the couples that definitely make it to the altar. And, you know, I can't see a reason based on what we've seen so far as to why they wouldn't make it to the altar and it wouldn't be a yes. Again, I just want to say Love is Blind UK season 3, whoever did the casting, there's not one person here that I hate. Even Jack, he gets on my nerves, but I think he might, you know, work through it with Faye. I like every single person except for that random guy that was there and was like, "Oh, if it doesn't work out for me, I don't think I can go back to not dating 12 women." Yuck. And I'm glad we never saw you with no one. Let's be real. So yeah, shout out to Sophie and Tyler, love them down. Let's get into Chevanique and Joseph and Francesca. Joseph, I actually used to work with Joseph. I worked with Joseph 10 years ago, an internship, and he was a gentleman then. Obviously, that was 10 years ago. He could be completely different, but he was attentive, caring, and very sweet as a person then. He was super funny as well, very conversational, is that the right word? But really good at conversation, like very intriguing, like a really nice guy. Like he's such a sweet guy. Not had any contact with him, so I don't know what he's done in his life there, but I genuinely think that, and based on what we've watched so far, is this does not work out, I might have I'm starting to think I'll bet my bottom dollar on it. It's gonna be the woman's fault. I'm not gonna lie. Just based on what I've seen. Do you know what I mean? So far. Also, spoiler alert, and skip like 30 seconds ahead, maybe even a minute. What I don't like about Love is Blind though is they love doing a little too much chop 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 recap at the beginning. That montage at the beginning was so unnecessary because it let you know that one, he's gonna get all the way through, but then he's gonna get to the altar, and we know we know who he's at the altar with. At first, it was like you couldn't really tell based on, you know, it was from behind, but this person had a particular hairstyle and color. So I was like, maybe when we go into the pods, you know, that person just got some highlights or whatever, you know, for the wedding. However, as soon as, you know, he starts talking to people, we realize who it is based on the hair color. Like, come on now, guys. We could have just let us think that there was still more. Like, we it just took away from the really getting into the story and, you know, the back and forth between him and his couples, because we already knew who he's ending up at the altar with, and we also already knew that he's ending up at the altar. Guys, like, come on. um Chevanique for me is tens across the board. I really love Chevanique. Chevanique reminds me, these are two typical types of black female like types for me. Francesca and Chevanique. I think they are so typical. I have friends that are exactly like them on scale, en masse, right? And I think with Chevanique, she's a bit of me. Like, she's a bit feisty. She's still quite religious. You know, she is guarded, but she's so bubbly. And I think when you meet someone who is so bubbly, you just assume that, like, you know, that they're always going to be very open with their emotions when it comes to serious conversations. And I don't think she's done the work yet to get to that point. That was how I used to be as well. It was just like, you know, you're good for a laugh, and you're good for, you know, having a little bit of a flirt, having a little bit of banter and stuff. But when you really want to have a serious relationship, if you really want to build something with someone, you need to be vulnerable. You need to have, you know, be open to have those conversations. And she just wasn't there at first. She led with her sexy, she led with her flirting, and that has worked for her, I'm sure, because she's a gorgeous, gorgeous girl. But it's not worked enough to be where, you know, to have a ring. Do you know what I mean? So her and Joseph's conversations were really like more on a physical, flirty, sexual chemistry conversations, whereas Francesca and Joseph's conversation is very much more in depth and with more depth to emotional than it is physical. She is a very shy, closed off, but very sweet girl who is also religious, also, yeah, worldly, and, like, you know, has a little bit of chat, but she is just a bit more reserved. I think in terms of upbringing, you can really see the difference between the two women. I think that Chevanique has a similar background to Joseph, so they're more alike, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is a good thing for them. When Francesca was talking about her family and having such a good family upbringing, she reminds me of the girlies are a bit more middle class, and like, or some friends that are like, you have a two-parent household, you have a beautiful home that your parents own, you go on vacations, you have, like, you know, you go and have like the best tutoring and dance classes and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like regular stuff. Like, there are black families like that, and I hate that people just assume that black families are like, there's no middle class blacks. Like, there's bare middle class black people, like, so many. So that's what she reminds me of. Like, there's a girl that I know that I used to work with, that Jordan, that's just basically, I feel like it's very similar. You know, like, there's just a few people that I know that are very similar to that. And I think that there's more black women that are like that, but people just assume that there's only Chevaniques in the world, and that's just not the case. What I think works with Francesca and Joseph is that he is able to deal with his emotions and his childhood and his lack of emotion, being emotionally open, and him working through it with someone who is actually very secure in terms of emotions being showcased in a non-romantic way. Okay, so when I mean that is, like, she finds it difficult to basically, you know, talk about her feelings, or like maybe be flirty and sexual and stuff like that. But I'm sure with her family and talking about like how she feels and stuff like that, that's never been an issue. So some of the traumatic things that he's talking about, she's never had that. She's never lived that. It's just very new to her. So she's able to be like, oh, okay, yes, this is an open floor, and you can spill your emotions and you can have it all. And you never have to worry about me doing, like, you know, apology or trauma Olympics with you, and we're competing about like whose life was better and whose life was harder, like whose life was harder, and you know what I mean. And I think that particularly with black relationships, black men and black women, I think that that is something that I've heard black men talk about why they actually enjoy sometimes dating outside their race. Stay with me now. Um, Sometimes, you know, they want to be not, they like the idea of being able, not like the idea, but there is an openness for them to speak freely around their issues and their emotions, and the fact that their guards are up, and the things and barriers that they're dealing with someone who doesn't necessarily have or walk through that life, where it means that the sole focus can be on them to repair, work on said emotions. Whereas sometimes when they deal with and dating black women, you come to us with, oh, you know, my walls are up and da 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 and all this stuff, and we're like, same boo, and I get to work every day, and I still, you know, I'm still boss lady in it anyway. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, sis, you too have been hurt. You too have been victimized by Regina George. Like, we get it, but also at the same time, can we deal with the emotions? The fact that I here am trying to display said emotions and talk about my trauma, and it not be a thing that's being like, yeah, me too. And I think that that is where Chevanique and Joseph, although very similar, both have their walls up. How conducive can it be to a good relationship if you're both like that? If you're both still working on, you know, building, breaking down these walls, and you're both, you know, maybe leading with hypersexuality because you both want to be seen and appreciated. Like, yeah. So like, who's to know, like, if that's maybe why that didn't really work out. I think it was a bit too late. He's already had this emotional depth and awakening of himself with someone where he's been able to basically be Little Spoon, even though he said, I'll never be Little Spoon. But like, he was able to be Little Spoon. He was able to let his emotions burn, that person pick him up. Whereas because you are someone who's very similar, he has to create that space for you and do it for you when he just wants it for himself. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense, but that's what I'm kind of getting from him as to why maybe Francesca was definitely more his type. She's going to show him, based on her family, how she was raised, a completely different model, and it's easier when there's proof of concept from her family, how she was raised, what she just expects to be the norm, and him just having to show up and do better to be in that place than trying to cultivate something that both of you have never seen together. Do you know what I mean? So it works there. It's funny that, you know, at the end of episode 3, he technically hasn't proposed to Francesca, but we know that's gonna happen because we saw the thing. But, you know, I do rate Chevanique for basically being like, you know, I see a connection for us. I'm gonna fight for a connection. I don't want this to end. And, you know, like, normally I would be like, girl, hang it up, flat screen. Don't be begging no man. Don't be begging no man. Don't let no man tell you more than once that he don't want you and he wants somebody else. Like, I normally would be so against it, but I think with this Love Is Blind and the fact that, you know, Joseph is a catch, and I do think that he could work well with both people. I just think, and I think he knows that the nurturing aspect of Francesca would be more so, in a way, supportive and helpful to him than it be the other way around, where he would maybe have to do that for um Chevanique. I do say that the issue that I see with them two is, with Francesca, there seems to be some sort of there's a shyness there, which is fine. And I don't know if a shyness with them would be that once they're together and once they're out of the pods and they're sharing space, that she will easily get over it. I want to know how easily she gets over that. If she's someone who, once they're together, you know, she's back to kissing him and hugging him, because he said he's a very affectionate person, and he's also a very sexual person, which is why he said that he would never not do sex before marriage when Dominique asked Chevanique asked him. That might be a problem for him, because when he said that he's a very sexual being, and then she said that she sees sex as like 7 out of 10 or 6 or 7 out of 10 or something like that, questionable. I think he is very clear that he is a pleaser. He's very sexual. He likes some sort of PDA. And if she is very shy, that might not work for them in the long term. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly she's able to adapt to that once they are in person. And if she gets too shy, that it also almost makes it seem like he has to walk on eggshells around her to make her feel comfortable, which then doesn't make him feel desired. And as someone who I can see seems to be a very sexual person, very flirtatious person, I also wonder if that might end up being an insecurity that um Francesca will have to deal with. This is a person who is very social, like, you know, very personable, very flirty, like, engages well with others, very much more an extroverted personality. She comes across very introverted, and that is fine. There's a good balance between the two. But if it seems to hinder him, or if it makes him walk on eggshells, I actually think that that is something that will make um Joseph flee. It's so funny because I thought that aspect of him would work well with Dominique, Chevenique, and that works for him. But the emotional aspect and the want for the future of the family is very much what Francesca gives. I want to say, and I wonder if this is going to be the social experiment that this explains this. But sometimes I feel like men date who they think they should date on paper, but not date who they actually have this like sexual chemistry with. And I'm not saying that all Chevenique brings to the table is this sexual connection, because you can see that there is emotional depth there. It just took her longer to get there. But I feel like maybe that's how she's perceived. And sometimes I feel like, me personally, myself, I'm perceived that way. Is that when you're the fun girl, the flirty girl, the dressed girl in the tight boots and da da da, that people assume that because you haven't got there quick enough, that it maybe is not there. And then when you show up, it's like, oh, you're a bit more serious than I expected. And I don't really know if that's what I thought or wanted from you. I want it from this girl who gives sweet, prim and proper, like put together kind of vibe. But then actually, that doesn't then satisfy this other side of you. Whereas if you gave this person time, they could have satisfied all aspects of you. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. We'll see if that actually ends up being the case with them. But so far, so good. Don't have a bad word to say about either of these women or Joseph. Joseph is gorgeous, tall, dark, and handsome. That's what we're talking about. Again, shout out to Love is Blind um casting casters casting crew. Okay, so let me get into our last two couples. I'm going to quickly talk about Cuba and Ryan. Oh, isn't that delicious? Like, isn't that delicious? He must have had a conversation with Chevenique, and he was talking about the fact that he loves to like move and groove and everything, and he likes to fly out, and he wants someone who maybe doesn't have a 9 to 5, that's very like stable, like situated in one place, because he's like away with the fairies. And Chevenique was like, that's going to be kind of hard to find in here. Like, I don't know what to tell you, because when you look, I don't know what to tell you, because when you think about marriage, a lot of times in marriage you think it's very much settled and spaced in a certain type of way, but that doesn't have to be everyone's marriage. That's not everyone's relationship. So what I really do enjoy is with Cuba and Ryan, is that they are speaking really in tune with their spirituality and what that means to them, and even down to how they want to raise the kids, and it all fucking aligns. It's gorgeous. Like, she's fucking hot, mind you. She's gorgeous. Again, there's not one girl on this panel, like on this lineup, that's ugly. There's not one guy that I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like, Taylor to me maybe the lowest on the totem pole, and he ain't ugly. And maybe Kira, and she ain't ugly either. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a good looking cast. Anyway, so yeah, Cuba, fine shit, gorgeous girl. I guess maybe where did she say that she was from? She gives East African, but her name's Cuba, so I don't really know. But she's absolutely gorgeous, and she leads with her spirituality. They actually went to the same retreat, I think in separate places. So she went to India. Maybe she's India. Anyway, she went to India and she did it there, and they kind of had the same thing. And at first, I was like, oh, it's all like ooh, 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 ooh. But then they started to speak more about their family upbringing, and how they even want to raise their kids, and they wanted to be on a farm and all that kind of stuff. And they really got emotional and in depth about their relationships and their family. And again, I just find it so beautiful when I'm seeing these men open up about their emotions and their families and share tears, and you're just sitting there just being like, oh. And I love that these women are just like, I appreciate you, thank you for sharing and opening up, and they feel the comfort in just being able to be that person for their person. I love them together. Absolutely yes from me, tens across the board. Want them to be together. Seems great. At first I was thinking, oh, the only thing I was like, again, if you're a person of color, whether or not you're gonna find this person attractive, or he's gonna find you attractive, vice versa. But her name's Cuba. I know for a fact that he must know, and they had the whole back and forth about knowing Spanish, so I know that he knows that she is a person of color, and she's gorgeous. So I don't think he's gonna have any issues with her. Um, I think I hope she finds him attractive. He's not ugly. I think she knows his name's Ryan. I think she knows that he is, a white guy. So I think that they will work out. There's no red flags I have with them as a couple. So yeah, good for them. Now we're gonna get into the final couple and one of my favorite couples. Yasmin is so beautiful that it makes me sad that she didn't think that she was beautiful. One, I can't like shout out to Winnie Harlow, who has obviously changed the view of vitiligo in, I think, mainstream media. I know some people don't like her, but it really did shift the way in which people think of vitiligo. And I just think that there's a beauty there. Her vitiligo is so symmetrically perfect in my mind that I'm just like, you're stunning. It's like perfect in her mouth, in her eyes. She's got this little piece here in her mouth. It's so symmetrical. She looks gorgeous. She's got a great body, great hair, like stunning, sweet, sweet girl. So yeah, she's a physical physician's assistant, and she's 33. Jordan, he is head of year, so he's a teacher. He is 30 something, forgot how old he was, but he used to be in the army. So he was basically saying that he wants to have the family. He came from a broken home. His parents broke up when he was younger. He was very close to his nan and granddad. His nan has passed, but one of the things that they did to put him on the straight and narrow was encourage him to go to the army, because that's what his granddad did. And he went to the army, and he went through traumatic experiences with being in the army, because he went to Afghanistan, and having to relive the bombing and stuff. And he, like, honestly, cried. Cried. It was too much. It was too much. Like, it was too much. Love that he was vulnerable. Love that he was open and shared that with her. Yasmin, she talked about growing up and not feeling beautiful because this vitiligo started, and feeling like she's never had a relationship. And one thing that's different between Faye and Yasmin is that although they are basically saying the same thing, that like they've never, well, Yasmin has never been in a relationship, whereas Faye has been in relationships, but she was treated badly. Is Yasmin was very much self-inflicted. Like she was talking negatively about herself. She was just like, I just didn't feel beautiful, I didn't feel pretty, and blah 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 blah. But it was never really too much about like these men that are just not taking me seriously. And I think those are two different things. Okay, I also don't think you should be talking down on yourself to men either, and like you don't making yourself feel like you're that shit. But it's definitely different when you talk about like how you feel about yourself and then how other people treat you. I think it's one thing to feel like you're insecure about yourself, but then to let someone know that others, quote unquote, validate how you feel about yourself. I don't like that. I didn't like that one with Faye. But with Yasmin, it was just very much about a self doubt that needed to be worked on. And I think it was also very imperative that she shared that she had vitiligo. And normally I'm like so against when people do context clues about who they are and what they look like. I didn't really like the fact that Chevonique told Joseph that she, you know, was Jamaican and likes Jamaican food and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, at the same time, her name's Chevonique. Girl, we knew it was lit regardless. So like that one I didn't really mind. But I feel like it was very imperative um to Yasmin's for Yasmin and making sure that she was safeguarding herself and her mental health and her self-esteem, that the person that she decides to leave with, or if they decide to leave or choose her or whatever you want to say, needed to know that she had vitiligo from the beginning. It couldn't be a thing where they walked out and that was the first thing that they noticed and she didn't tell them. I'm sorry, it's too much of a big factor in her life and really is to why she feels the way she feels about herself. And I think that that also was very important. It wasn't because, you know, like someone was treating her badly or, you know, she just thought she wasn't cute or whatever. It was based on this thing and this thing alone as to why she was dealing with the things that she was the self-esteem issues that she was dealing with. I think it was very important. And I also think it's fair for the person that she's talking to know that. So if that's something that they need to, you know, work on, they can work through it on their own time separately and then come back with a, you know, more clear idea of how they feel and how they want to articulate that conversation moving forward. I feel like sometimes big things are dropped in Love is Blind and it's also like it's done in their face and they're like, so what do you think about that? And it's just like, okay, can this person have time to process this and think about this and how it's going to affect them or how they feel about it before, you know, they're expected to reply in your face and hurt your feelings or validate your feelings. Do you know what I mean? So I think it was really important that they allowed them to have this conversation, and he was aware before, you know, they were engaged and then, you know, do the first look thing. I also love the fact that when he was in the male quarters or the men's quarters, he had a conversation with one of his friends and he was like, she shared something with me and obviously I'm not going to say what it is, but you know, it really made me look at her in a different way. Like I really like her and all that kind of stuff. I love that he didn't share it. I love that he didn't share it and he realized how vulnerable she was being with him and him alone, and safeguarded her feelings. And yeah, loved every minute of it. When they met, I was concerned. Um Actually, no, I don't think I was really that concerned about it. I was just concerned because I was worried for her. I'm not gonna lie, and I don't mean it in a way. Like, don't get me wrong, Yasmin is buff, but she's buff to me. I think she's buff. I think she's absolutely gorgeous. Um, but you know, men are very fickle and superficial sometimes, and I just didn't know. And I feel like he was giving all the good chat, and he was, you know, saying so many lovely things. When he got on his knee and he proposed to her, and he was like, "I want this to be your first relationship, and I want this to be your last relationship. I want to be this to be your first marriage and your last marriage." Oh, I cried. I cried. I cried when he was talking about the his I think I have a thing for men crying, you know. Because I cried when he was talking about obviously being in the army. I cried with AJ when AJ broke down and was talking about his best friend. I cried, I cried, I cried, I cried, I cried. It was so beautiful when these two men proposed, AJ and Jordan, when they proposed to their girl, I actually was really misty eyed. I was literally like this because it was so beautiful. But when he said, "Yeah, I want this to be your first relationship and your last. I want this to be your first marriage and your last," I truly believed him. I truly believed him, and I was just scared that when they met each other, although he had this concept of like, yeah, I'm fine with it, I just didn't know if he was actually going to be fine with it when he actually saw her in real life. And he was. Sorry, body T, hair looks good, face is so cute. Like I said, her vitiligo is literally placed in the best places. Like, it's very symmetrical. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. He's so handsome. I think she was pleased. I actually think he was very pleased. And yeah, I absolutely adored it. I adored them so much. So I'm excited to see what their relationship's going to be in in their homes and like outside of the pods. Again, I don't know if I'm just being like optimistic, but I feel like a lot of these couples should be making it to the aisle. There's no one except for Jack and Faye, and who else maybe? Even Kira and AJ is questionable for me because I'm not sure if Kira finds AJ attractive. Um, but everybody else, I think, is gonna make it to the altar. I hope, like Cuba and Ryan, like unless he ends up being like a January 6er MAGA guy, like I can't really see how that don't work. They want to have chickens. They want to, raise their kids, homeschooled. I can't really see how that's not gonna work. Do you know what I mean? She is a bit more emsy, but I feel like that's a woman of her circumstances, not because of that's who she is. Do you know when some men are like these hoodmen and they're like gangsters and all that kind of stuff and like they're dealers and everything, but really if they weren't in that environment they would be nerds playing video games, reading those like manga, like anime comic books. Like they would be nerds if they could be. I think you're just a person of your circumstance in your environment. And it's funny that she said that she's never dated a man like Ryan because she is London and where did she say that she was from? I think she said that she was from South, no. But yeah, so she's like a South girl, or she's from London, and she's just a woman of her circumstances. And I'm sure she's dated black men, right? So now she's dating something different. I think that would be fantastic. I really hope it works. Yasmin, and Jordan. I can't see this going wrong. And if it goes wrong, I'll be so upset. I'd be so upset. I really will. I think the only way it could go wrong is if obviously this is Yasmin's first relationship and he did say that that was kind of like an amber red flag for him, so maybe that could be something in terms of it being a lot for her to learn how to be in a relationship, right? So that might be a thing. Sophie and Taylor, I can't see where this goes wrong. I can't, but maybe it will. And then again, I've already told you what I think about Joseph and Francesca, about whether or not that could work out regarding if she is going to quickly get into the groove of this relationship and be open to this big guy who is flirty and fun and all that kind of stuff, or is her being shy and Zoomior gonna be a problem. Anyway, like I said, I am loving so far this season. There's no one here that I do not like. I think it's gonna be a great season. The men seem like they actually want to be here. The men seem like they actually want to be in relationships, and I'm so excited about this. Yeah, congratulations to Love is Blind UK. So far so good. I will be back tomorrow from when you see this with another episode. Probably do another 3 episodes. I might also have my friend here to give her perspective and it not just be my perspective. Please let me know in the comments if you like the way that these reviews are done, or would you prefer me to do it like scene by scene, episode by episode, instead of just doing the grand like recap of my feelings towards these people after said amount of episodes. Who are you feeling? Who do you think is going to make it to the altar? Who do you think is going to actually be together after the reunion 1 year later? And yeah, let me know what you think about so far about Love Island, Love is Blind UK season 3. And I will see you next time.